So, are you pregnant, Emma, or have you had a baby in the last 18 months?
I'm not pregnant, but...
When someone is suffering domestic abuse, it's crucial to make as accurate and timely assessment of the current and potential danger that they are in to enable them to get the right help as quickly as possible. The tools that we use in assessing risk can be the DASH risk assessment. The DASH stands for Domestic Abuse, Stalking and Harassment and Honour-Based Violence. It's also really important to consider your professional judgment based on your experience and knowledge. And the other factor to consider here as well is escalation of abuse in frequency and/or severity. The DASH risk assessment can be used for all intimate partner relationships, including LGBTQI+, honour-based and family violence. It's a series of simple and consistent questions to help work out risk that the victim is facing. This risk is scored from a level of standard, medium to high. A high risk score means that the victim is at high risk of serious injury or murder and needs urgent help. The DASH relates to recent incidents of domestic abuse and is therefore best used with those currently experiencing domestic abuse, whether currently in the relationship or having recently separated. The aim of the DASH risk assessment is to identify current and ongoing risk, and it is used by a range of agencies whom are involved in the MARAC process. It's important to consider all aspects of risk when completing the DASH, such as the victim's perception of risk, as the victim has the most detailed knowledge of the perpetrator. Professionals should also be aware that victims frequently underestimate their risk of harm from domestic abusers. Therefore, it is important that fears for their own safety are integral in assessing risk of harm. The form is in a checklist format, and you can go through it question by question, ensuring that you elaborate and provide context to the answers. Some of the questions will identify clear high-risk factors such as strangulation or use of weapons. However, it is important to consider other high-risk factors such as coercive control to include intimidation, isolation and degradation. These covert methods of abuse, obsessive possessiveness and morbid jealousy have been identified as major factors in domestic homicides.
And then this one here is really around coercive control. We call coercive control, so it's about him trying to control everything you do. So
if the victim scores 14 or above on the DASH, this is an automatic high-risk referral to MARAC. However, your professional judgment is key to the process. The checklist is not a definitive assessment of risk. It is a structure to inform your judgment and act as a prompt to further questions, analysis and risk management. And a referral to MARAC can be based on your professional judgment alone without meeting the threshold of 14 yes answers or above. The context of the violence needs to be put into perspective. Using your experience and instinct that something is wrong is key. The DASH enables the professional to understand what is going on in that relationship, what the behaviour of the perpetrator is like, and how the victim feels, so that they can build a safety plan with the victim, taking into account their wants, needs and priorities to address their safety.
Has he ever used weapons or objects to hurt you? Is it normally just...
Before you ask the questions on the DASH, it is important to find out how much time the victim has to talk to you. Also consider, is it safe to talk now? Establish the whereabouts of the perpetrator and the children. And importantly, explain why you're asking these questions and how it relates to MARAC. As well as that, ensure you explain confidentiality and where you may need to breach confidentiality to keep someone safe. Also explain information sharing and MARAC referral procedures before starting. It is important to remind the victim that the perpetrator will not know that they have been referred to MARAC.
Has he ever tried to strangle, choke or suffocate you or drown you?
Yes,
When you reveal the results of the DASH risk assessment to the victim, please ensure that this is done sensitively. Telling someone that they are at high risk of serious harm or homicide may be frightening and overwhelming for them to hear. State what your concerns are by using the answers that they gave you and also your professional judgment. As well as that, someone who is not currently identified as high risk needs to be managed carefully also to ensure that that person doesn't feel that their situation is being minimised. When someone is assessed as high risk, after completion of the DASH, make the referral to MARAC and ensure that this has been discussed beforehand with your line manager. Each agency will have gatekeeping processes to allow that an accurate assessment of risk is made and that the referral is meeting the correct threshold. As well as this, you can also fully document all the actions and decisions made and that a safety plan has started there and then before the referral even gets as far as the MARAC. If the DASH risk assessment in consultation with your line manager has been assessed as low to medium risk, this won't warrant a referral to MARAC. However, do consider safety planning and do consider a referral to an appropriate support organisation.